Miles southwest of Plymouth lie Eddystone Rocks. Sitting on a busy shipping route, they were known as Dread Eddystone because up to 50 ships a year and their crews were being lost on this treacherous reef. A solution was a lighthouse to mark the deadly spot, and Henry Winstanley's ornate wooden creation was the very first offshore light to be built in the world. It survived just 5 years before being swept away in the Great Storm of 1703. The next lighthouse lasted 50 years before being destroyed by fire. Trinity House, which is responsible for the safe navigation of shipping and seafarers, permitted a private consortium to build a new light. And this is the result, Smeaton's Tower, named after John Smeaton, who was one of the first people to call himself a civil engineer. But this wasn't built here on Plymouth Hoe. Like the first two lighthouses, it started life out at sea on Eddystone Rocks, which posed a real design challenge. What was needed was something more robust and fireproof, something like this. Designed by engineer John Smeaton. Now, he based his concept on an English oak tree, something with core strength, something with stability and foundations and roots like an oak tree. And of course, he chose his design to be created out of stone and not wood. Smeaton's light did its job on perilous Eddystone Rocks for more than a century, before being dismantled and re-erected here at Plymouth Hoe. Curator Nigel Overton is going to explain why the stone construction was so radical.
The challenge of building a rock lighthouse 14 miles out of sea was a pretty brave endeavour, and obviously it took people like Smeaton to deliver a lighthouse on a sea-swept rock. The key to building in stone, apart from persuading people that it was practical, was to come up with a hydraulic mortar or a waterproof cement. Because you're out on a sea-swept rock, you need a cement that's going to be able to go hard in those conditions.
Fortunately, in the mid-1750s, Smeaton met and lodged with William Cookworthy, who later went on to develop English porcelain. Smeaton experimented with him, and they came up with an ideal mixture that proved integral to the construction. But that was only part of the jigsaw.
There's hidden cleverness in the way the stonework is jointed together.
You've got an example of
and that's what we're going to show you with this, if we may. Each of these blocks represents a block.
One of these. That's basically
a block of Cornish limestone.
That's basically that, isn't it? Cornish limestone.
Yeah.
Okay.
But between every block, there's a diamond-shaped piece of Purbeck marble that drops in there, and that's a joint stone. Smeaton was worried when the building moves, as it's going to, out on a sea-swept rock, he didn't want those vertical joints to open up and let the water in. So the joint stone prevents that problem.
Oh, I see, stops it filtering through.
Then to clamp each stone together, over the top of the joint and set inside the masonry is a wrought iron staple or a cramp. So those two blocks now can't easily part from each other.
Okay.
And then in the middle of each block of masonry is a joggle stone, this was called of Plymouth limestone. And then if you put a joggle stone in each of the neighbouring blocks, then the next block above links to those. So the joggle stone has the effect of linking each block on the course above to two of the stones on the course below.
So that it keeps that accurate in a course.
It's a simple but remarkably clever device. It's interesting, Smeaton himself was quoted to say that, I don't want this lighthouse to last 1 age or 2 ages, I want it to be there in perpetuity. So he was thinking long term.
Yes.
And indeed it stood on the Eddystone for 123 years, so it did its job on the Eddystone. It was replaced in May of 1882 by the present lighthouse, and this lighthouse was re-erected on the Hoe and has been here itself now for over 130 years.
Yeah, even longer.
One of the reasons it was replaced was that they were concerned that there's a cavern in the reef which was getting slowly enlarged by the action of the waves, and they felt that eventually Smeaton's Tower would crumble and fall.
It must have been one hell of a project to dismantle it out there and bring it back here.
Well, I think that's important to get across. I mean, Trinity House were pondering a controlled explosion or possibly dismantling, but various people had stepped in offering to buy the building, but Plymouth Corporation had a meeting, they decided they wanted to bring it back. They were just developing Plymouth Hoe here as a public park, and they had a place for it. There was a navigational obelisk where this building now stands. So they were going to build it, to re-erect it here. It was going to be a memorial to Smeaton, and it was also going to be a day mark, a navigational mark. So it would still carry on fulfilling some sort of navigational function. It's obviously become a landmark. Most people don't even realise that it spent the first half of its life
Out at sea.
More than a century ago, 3 lighthouse keepers worked in this building, obviously in alternating shifts, keeping an eye on the light in the lantern, which is just up there. You can see through the scoop of light. Now, there's mention in one of their logbooks of this building moving like an old oak tree, swaying as it was being battered by the high winds. And in one particular storm, in 1824, there's mention of the waves being so high and powerful that they reached the top of the lighthouse, shattering the glass in the lantern. Must have been a strange existence. There's something really special about lighthouses like these. This particular one has stood the test of time both out at sea and here on dry land, and it's highly unlikely that any more of this design will ever be built again. So it makes it really, really special to be up here. And it's brilliant that this one's open to the general public, because future generations get to appreciate the endeavour, the achievement that went in to building this. And you get to experience this. And of course, when you're at the top, look at that view.